Next item of new business, which is the water of the homeowners. Mr. Malice, what is that about? The homeowners and the water, what, you're on the agenda.
You know the landlords that I didn't put on last month, remember?
Okay, we were going to discuss, not necessarily pass on,
Yeah.
whether there's a mechanism that would either bind the landlord owner to have to pay certain unpaid utilities or not. La Junta has a circumstance like that. It hasn't been necessarily foolproof. Causes a lot of angst with landlords, but if you're wanting to connect to make the landlords responsible for unpaid water, unpaid sewer, there's a mechanism to do it. What we're looking for, these Swink flies are kamikazing me today. Zoom. You know, we can try to give you an example of what La Junta's done, and you can see whether you're interested in doing it.
As far as leftover, like a tenant moves out and doesn't pay their water bill, so Rick's my landlord and I
Mr.
stick him with the bill.
I thought, is it making all the landlords keep them in, keeping their houses in their names and not letting them go to,
Not necessarily.
cause that would be the easiest.
Okay, well, if that's the approach you wanna take, that's cool too.
Because the late
here-
stuff, that'd just be,
The landlords don't, whatever you're gonna do, the landlords aren't gonna like.
yeah.
So just write that up. So La Junta played with a format where the landlords were able to give their, allow the utilities to be put in the tenant's name, but they had to, the tenant had to demonstrate that they were a true legitimate tenant and so on. Now that appeased a lot of the landlords, but it was an extra step in terms of getting somebody qualified to get their water.
So is it Ordway or Crowley that they made all the landlords, they're not allowed to put
It's not
utilities?
Ordway, so it must be Crowley.
Maybe Crowley then? Cause that's where I got the idea from. It's whoever sent that.
What did you
Because
say
I
you
have
do?
people that move out, nobody tells me until they move somebody in, and the landlord's like, well, they moved out a month ago. Well, how am I supposed to know that? So what I feel like is that we should have, the landlords have to keep their houses in their names and pay, and then they can raise their rent or whatever to fix
And
it.
be responsible for the water
And be
bill. That's one
responsible.
way. Now what we do where I was the city clerk, Jim's the landlord and I'm there and we know it. We knew that who the landlords were of the property, right? You can search it up on the website. But I moved out and left Rick high and dry. And the bill was in my name because we changed them all the time. We had to pay, the city residents of Rocky Ford. But when I left, and I didn't call you to have it disconnected, before Rick can rent anyone else to his property, he has to clear the water bill that stood before, and that, they just know it.
Wow.
I don't know how many times Brandon Malinsky walks in there and writes a check for $247 to clear the account for the prior tenant before he'll move someone else in.
But if they've already moved them in and I have no clue about it, how do I fix that?
La Junta had a system for trying to address that.
Yeah.
And look,
We just made it landlord responsibility, because if they don't want to tell us when their people are coming and going, then it's not our fault if we left the water on or didn't turn the water off. They had to contact us.
You're not gonna be popular with the landlords.
No,
The
Brandon hated
squeeze
it.
comes on the landlords, no matter how we try to set it up.
Yeah.
You know, you can always say, well, the landlords are the people that pick who's they're gonna rent to, and shouldn't they be responsible for the bill if the tenant doesn't pay it? That's a heck of an argument that we would make, but the landlords are gonna hate it. And, I think you
I
can
actually
expect
had
a
that
packed
happen in
council
Spa.
room when you consider it.
That's standard policy, Rocky Ford. And all the landlords know it. Leonida, all of them. Sackett, and she hates it, but we will not open up the water, we would not open up the water to another tenant until that property had a zero bill. But there's options, you gotta think about them.
Right, but if I have no idea that somebody moved out.
The way it is currently now is what?
Some keep them in and some don't. Some keep them in their names and some people put it in the tenant's name. It's however they want to do it.
And then someone left, so the water stayed on, and then,
Well, I had someone who was, she just left the house and left a water bill. And I told the landlord, and he was not happy about it. And I'm like, well, we've had water shut off. We've been doing this for months. You know, I don't know what you want us to do. Well, I ended up getting some help, so I cleared everybody's account. Remember when I cleared yours and I cleared, that was one of them I just cleared because I'm like, well, we might as well get it paid for. You know, we might as well
when you
get
got the
money
extra
for
leave
it.
of sentence, when they, when they sit out
It was
the funds.
from LEAP.
Yeah, when LEAP sent out the funds to clear out the water
So I used it to clear it. I didn't have to
program, LIWAP.
worry, but he
I
was
know.
already trying to move somebody else in, and I'm like,
I'm not gonna, that's not what I'm saying.
and it's
You should-
hard when you're in a little small community and everybody knows you, and like, it's hard. I got yelled at the other day because I gave him a red tag, and he came in here and threw a fit, and I went right back at him
Yeah, well, you gotta be
because he
careful.
was mad at me because I gave him that. But I'm like, but that's the I'm doing my
That's the
job.
boss, yes. I was just giving you ideas, cause I mean, I don't,
It's just hard.
not a landlord came in and we got yelled at all the time, it's just part of the job. But we've gotta figure out what's gonna be best for the town of Swink on how we control the water loss. Cause our water revenue is already suffering, so we can't let nobody not pay it,
No,
and going
I
after.
don't have very many.
And the
delinquent
reason Swink did that, or
accounts.
the Rocky Ford doing that, is because when I was first hired, I put together a whole spreadsheet of going after all the tenants of all the land, which we don't have as many as Rocky Ford. But to get a company to help us chase it down was gonna cost more than recovering the water bill. So, there's just ideas, and I mean, and you talked to Ordway, Sugar City,
Can I-
what does Fallon do?
Please.
I have no idea.
Huh?
Black Hills do.
Mr.
I'll-
Mel, yes,
I'll
sir.
put something together and let you start taking a look at it. Thank you.
Thank
Let
you.
you take a look at what other communities have done, and you can see whether you're interested.
Yeah, I mean, just ideas, cause who knows?
Cause it's kinda like, I think we need a whole look at this, say, well, yeah, the landlords are gonna be upset, yeah, I get that too.
Yeah.
One, we have to protect the revenue and the water and whatnot too, but, you know, we're not in subtropical climate, water, heat, gas or something gets shut off in December. Not only could that be a huge water loss if a pipe explodes within a house to the landlord, but also to the city, so I think we kinda, because I was a landlord once, and I hated it, and I had that problem happen, and I had water all over a house, and it was a disaster, and it was very expensive, and I sold the house. I didn't wanna deal with that anymore, but, yeah, we kinda need to, I think, look at a balanced approach it is, to protect, the water and the cost to the town, and kind of maybe help out the landlord a little bit. And I said, what does Black Hills do with the gas and electricity? Because I know, like in the Hunna, I was able to have the tenants take over everything, but the second they defaulted, I got the bill. But then I have warning, you're like, oh, okay, hold on, now I can go do something about it. So I don't think it's something we're gonna be able to say, hey, we get a resolution tonight. It's gonna
Yeah,
take some
we
time to
need
figure
time,
it out.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.